You What's going on, everybody? It's Jack Lipperini here today. My apologies for some problem with the audio there, but I hope everything's sorted out now. So, today we have a couple of sad stories, unfortunately, that have happened. The uh, the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore was destroyed, and it's been a while since I've streamed, but that's kind of called me back to it. I was like, wow, I need to get in because there's so many things happening every week, every day of this year. It's just been crazy. So we're gonna be going over that. Uh, it's obviously, Port of Baltimore. On the East Coast, it's a major port where a lot of shipping is done out of. There's not really any. There's no other ports quite exactly like it. Obviously, there's other shipping lanes, but it collapsed yesterday, Tuesday, at 1:30 in the morning, and yeah, it's pretty crazy. A lot of the official narrative is that it was an accident caused by a power outage, and they just couldn't turn the ship in time. The currents were strong. They lost power to the engines, and so it kind of just drifted into the bridge. Um, there are 10 vessels stuck in the port after the bridge being collapsed. Three carriers, two cargo ships, a chemical tanker, and naval vessels. So the ship that took the bridge down is still in the port as well. Uh, an additional 12 vessels are in port, but they're not stuck behind the bridge. And yeah, it's. I mean, yeah. So there were construction workers on the bridge at the time when this happened. They were there were six of them from Guatemala, Honduras, as well as three or four from Mexico. Um, they were able to recover two people from the water. One of them is in critical condition, and the other one is he is doing fine. But all the others are presumed to be dead. So that is a tragedy for Maryland. Obviously someone who lives around the area, and it's a tragedy. It's sad to see. It's sad to hear about. Uh, I mean, they're continuing to salvage stuff, but yeah, at this point, it's too late. The water's too cold, and they're searching for bodies at this point. They were able to get a radio transmission out to stop traffic going across the bridge, but and that hopefully helped save lives as well. Uh, so yeah, the remains of two people have been recovered, and four others are presumed to be dead. Two were pulled out alive. They were construction workers filling potholes. Uh, the ship lost power, and a distress call closed the bridge to traffic. And video of the ship, emergency radio transmissions, and analysis uh, paint a picture of a disastrous scenario, one that could have been much worse, especially if it had happened during the day or something like that, as opposed to at the time of night when it did happen. They it, it's it's going to be a costly impact, and it's named for actually the guy who wrote the Star Spangled Banner. Now, going out on a limb, there is no necessarily evidence for this, but with the capabilities of cyber attacks in this day and age, I think that is not off the table. Everyone's saying that it looks like an accident, and I'm not here saying it's definitely or who it was done by if it wasn't an accident. I'm just saying the possibility is still open, and a lot of warfare nowadays is not going to look like traditional warfare. So you could hack into the system of a boat like that, lose it's going to lose power, gains power back, turns the steering, and then it loses power again and they're unable to steer. This could have been conducted as an attack. I mean, I can't say that I know. I just think that it's very weird and it damages the infrastructure majorly of the East Coast. There's going to be a lot of problems from it economically, as well as, just socially because of the importance. Francis Scott Key wrote the Star Spangled Banner. It's a major landmark, and it's one of the one of the biggest port cities in America on the East Coast. So it's just a tragedy to see. I really pray that they're able to find those people whose bodies were not recovered yet, and just thank God that not more people were injured, because it's sad, and it's gonna be. I mean, hopefully they rebuild it better than ever, right? And that's what we want to see. So sad to see, but good that there was only 6 people. Be ready to see more weird things happening like this, because there's been a lot of weird things going on throughout the world. And moving on to the next story we have, there was an attack in Moscow, a huge fire Molotov cocktail attack with 133 people killed, confirmed. And that is absolutely over 100 are in hospitals with injuries. This is obviously a tragedy as well. And, right, as far as what we know, based off of mainstream news sources, he delivered an address calling it an act of terrorism and vowing to punish the perpetrators. And he accused Ukraine of preparing a window to help the suspects escape, and they denied any role in the attack. I think that what that's based off of is that the victims, or not the victims, my apologies, but the people who carried out this attack, the terrorists, were trying to escape towards the Ukrainian border before they were apprehended. And they've arrested 11 people, including all 4 gunmen. So it happened at a venue that was, it was a venue that Trump had held things at. It's like a mall mixed with the venue, and there was a concert going on. At least 133 people are now known to have been killed, and more bodies were found in the rubble. Men in camouflage broke in, opened fire, and set the crowded venue on fire with Molotov cocktails, and the death toll is still rising and expected to rise. So, I mean, that happened last week. The terror group ISIS has claimed responsibility but didn't provide proof, and U.S. officials confirmed to the news that they had been gathering intelligence that ISIS could mount a mass casualty attack in Russia, though no final assessment has been made about who was responsible. The embassy issued a warning urging people to stay away from large gatherings, and we can take a look at this. They warn of an imminent Moscow attack by extremists. Wow, look at that. U.S. citizens of Moscow have been warned to avoid large gatherings. So that is something that is very weird about this attack. And I think something that we can also look at in the world stage, just in general, on as far as what's going on with the FSK bridge going down and other infrastructure, terror attacks maybe meant to provoke some sort of response from Russia. Considering that the people who carried out the attack said they were trying to escape to Ukraine, is you got to look at the motives of the people involved, and why. Like what like yes, it could be Islamic terrorists. I don't know exactly. It could be ISIS terrorists just wanting to inflict damage, but it doesn't really seem like there's that much of a motive. Another thing about it, a lot of those groups in the Middle East have had contact with the United States for a long time. We funded ISIS when they were fighting the Taliban. We have also funded the Taliban when they were fighting other extremist groups. We have contacts in those groups. And, there are attacks that happen like this, like the Nord Stream attacks, which we don't really know why any. We don't know. We know why because it helps the U.S. strategically, but obviously nothing. It's still denied that the United States had anything to do with it. Though Putin, in his interview with Tucker, said that they're pretty sure that it was the United States that carried that out. And I mean, yeah, the weird thing about it is just how steady it is that we have connections with these kinds of groups, and that these attacks are usually carried out. When you look at modern warfare, you don't want to be direct. You want to be indirect. You want to use cyber warfare. You want to use misinformation campaigns. And the fact that they sent out a warning to United States citizens in Moscow just seems very weird to me. Regardless, I mean, obviously that's stuff to do with the intelligence services. But the intelligence services have their hands in all sorts of pots all around the world. The people who carried out the attack also were claiming to be, they were claiming to be paid or had a financial incentive to carry out the attack. The other weird thing about this is how usually Islamic terrorist attacks, they die too, so they can become a martyr in their religion, right? And go. That's how one of the ways that you can get into heaven as in Islam or in extremist Islam. I don't want to say that's a mainstream thing that people do in Islam at all. But yeah, I just find it very odd that is how it all went down. Regardless, I mean, you see so many of these interlocking webs of connections between different intelligence agencies around the world. And what the purpose of this attack could be is to, prompt Russia. Like, Russia has not drafted any people for this war with Ukraine. They've just been using their military that's already standing, and they've been doing a lot of attrition attacks, a war of attrition. And maybe this attack will prompt them to take further actions, which could invoke a response from NATO and escalate the war further. As far as, breaking up the blockage in Congress, if there is a significant increase in the amount of aggression that the Russians have after this attack. Going back, obviously, I don't know what happened with the FSK bridge, but you could see how all they'd have to do is get into the computer systems or get into the electronic control systems for the rudders and for the power of the whole ship. And, you'd be able to do some serious damage to infrastructure in the United States, as well as, anywhere really. I think that, I think just recently they started boarding the ship. They haven't been boarding the ship to go investigate what's been going on. So how are we supposed to know whether or not it was intentional or not? I think that also could be partly damage control from the government not wanting people to freak out, not wanting people to go crazy with this story. Thankfully, not that many people were killed as were in Russia. And surprisingly, they don't have a death penalty in Russia. and a lot of extreme politicians in Russia were calling to have the death penalty invoked and brought back for these people. But Putin has said that he will not be doing that, and that he hopes that people are able to mourn and bring a message of peace. So here's to hoping that we can continue down that road and bring more people together. Uh, Obviously, not too big of a show today. I mean, I could continue talking about these, but I think you get the idea. There is a lot of weird things going on in the world today. We've seen so much happen over the course of 2024 already, and it's only been, this is the end of the third month. So who's to say what's going to be happening next, right? So let's all stay praying, stay blessed, stay safe, stay away from major packed, crowded areas, because who knows what's going to be down the line. I wish for all of you to stay safe out there. Have a beautiful evening, whatever time you're checking this out, and just stay safe out there, guys. Peace. Jack Lebarini Show. I'll be back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at night. I'll definitely do a lot more of these lives coming forward. So thanks again for viewing. Hope you found it informative, and have a great day, everybody.